Hello, good morning. I just wanted to talk today a bit about self-help book people and like those motivational conference type people like Tony Robbins, etc. Um, Obviously, these sort of things have been getting popular a lot over the last sort of 50 years, with like Bob Proctor and those types of people making careers off of basically getting people to try and improve their own lives. And obviously there's like two thoughts there, which is either that these are all swindling con artists. This is just trying to take your money to sell you on ideas, which are fundamentally false or contrived or whatever. Or the people who get really into it because they want to improve their lives. And I just think one reason why there's so many of these now, like pyramid scheme courses to get people to become life coaches, etc., is because in the process of helping other people to improve their lives, you're improving your own life. I feel like it's very much like AA, like you're building a community to reinforce a certain idea. And instead of the idea of sobriety, it's the idea of life improvement, better positive mindsets, keeping track of goals, and just generally making things better for yourself. And there's really going to be an endless amount of this because one thing that I found as formerly being a teacher for a little bit and even as a student, I find that like learning something for yourself is one thing, but teaching something to another person really gives you a deeper understanding of whatever it is, the content of the lessons that you're learning. So for example, I was not very good at like later level math. I had to have a tutor, and I feel like that person would have a much better understanding of not only the topic of whatever algebra we were doing, but also the ways that other people understand those concepts. And when you see things from another person's perspective, which you kind of are forced to do if you're in a teaching situation, then you also learn something more about yourself, or you have a just deeper understanding of the topic, which I think I already just said, but basically just resaid it in a different way. So I think that's one reason why people keep making new programs and new books and new conferences and new courses, because it's like the new age religion. People don't have their fill in the blank community through a greater belief as they did in the past. And now people are creating a new community, which is kind of based on a lot of the same things when you get down to it, fundamentally, in terms of like just being a good person, supporting your family and friends, and being a positive influence for the community and the world at large, sort of thing. So I don't really think it's a bad thing, but it's just like, it's great to like listen to all these things and read the books and do the programs. And I think the reason why the programs are so successful is because you have a group of people that are forcing you to really like do something active about changing stuff and learning and etc. And encouraging you to go out and actually make real changes and act in a way differently than what you would have previously. But I mean, the problem is if you explain how to do things like with words, and even in making a writing activity or something, it's like you explain to someone how a car works, how the rules of the road are, and even you can step by step talk about or write about how to drive a car or surf or dance or skip rope or whatever. But the only way to actually learn and master these things is for the other person to actually do it themselves. And so I think that's why these communities are becoming more and more popular, because there you have a structure where people are supporting each other, and you're more likely to actually try the thing. And then when you don't do it very well, or you get scared, or you panic, or you want to give up, you're less likely to give up completely because you have all these people supporting you, even if not actually in that moment, but at least in your mind, sort of thing. So yeah, that's kind of my thought about self-help stuff. It is corny, and it is cringe, and it is in some way crazy sounding, but so is, you know, different types of religion sometimes. So I don't know, I just think it's like a replacement for that. And the people who write new books and create new programs and try to get new sort of systems for people are really just doing it for themselves. Because again, the whole teacher-student thing, when you're trying to figure out as a way to explain things that you've learned through your own experiences to someone else, you have to sort of reevaluate and you relearn yourself the same thing, or you reinforce it at least. So yeah, that's kind of my thought about why people keep creating these things and why it keeps getting increased popularity, because it's so effective. And then once you go to one of these like conferences or courses or whatever, it becomes very addictive because it's giving you like hope and encouragement, which is something like modern day society maybe doesn't do. Maybe no one's ever done that. I don't know. This is maybe not a new problem. This is just the same sort of situation happening with people. And it's funny because people who are like older have this perspective that the world is changing and becoming more wise in terms of like within humanity, like humans. But it's like, well, your experience of life is that way because now you're older and you've got more experiences to draw from. But when you were younger, there was also older people who had a lot of experiences. And that doesn't mean, I don't know, I just think there's like a sort of delusion, a narcissistic delusion that there's like a whole consciousness that is based around, of all the humans, that's based around where you are at mentally. But just because you're doing well or not well doesn't mean everyone's doing well or not well, if that makes sense. So yes, trying to improve yourself, change your mindset can be scary, difficult, could be dangerous in some ways if you're trying new things, like when you're learning how to drive. If you're not cautious enough, you can be a danger to everyone around you. So I think that is the fear that other people have when they see someone go from one mindset to another. It's like, yeah, that just means, are you genuinely changing like in that direction permanently, or are you having like a mental break, basically? So yeah, that's the fear that I think these types of things bring up in other people who aren't into those types of things. Because if you just sort of like live one life where everything is very consistent and unchanging and stable, it can be very frightening to see someone else who's not living that sort of life, or who hasn't in the past. So anyway, that's my thoughts on that. Yeah. What do you think, guys? I don't know. Peace.